O all-powerful one of glory, who makes the mountains masts and halls of treasure for the sheep of the earth. Through the instruction of your noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, and the teaching of the wise Qur'an, I have understood that, just as the seas with their strange creatures recognize you and make you known, so do the mountains through the wise services they perform. For they ensure that the earth is released from the effects of earthquakes and internal upheavals, save it from being overrun by the seas, purify the air of poisonous gases, are thanks for the saving and storage of water, and treasuries for the minerals and metals necessary for living beings. Yes, there is not one of the stones to be found in mountains or the various substances used as remedies for illness or the varieties of metals and minerals which are essential for living beings and especially man, or the species of plants that adorn the mountains and plains with their flowers and fruits, but through the wisdom, order, and fine creation it displays, which is impossible to ascribe to chance, it testifies to the necessary existence of an infinitely powerful, wise, compassionate, and munificent Maker. This is especially true of substances found in the mountains like salt, potassium oxalate, quinine sulfate, and alum, which superficially resemble each other, but whose tastes are totally dissimilar, and particularly of all the varieties of plants and the great diversity of their flowers and fruits. Moreover, through their being administered and managed as a totality in their origins, situations, creation, and art all being similar, and the ease, speed, and cheapness in their making, they testify to the unity and oneness of their Maker. Also, the creatures on the surface of the mountains and inside them being made everywhere on the earth at the same time, in the same fashion, perfectly and without error, with none impeding others, and they being created without confusion, despite being intermingled with all the other sorts of other creatures, all point to the splendor of your dominicacy and the immensity of your power, for which nothing is difficult. Also, the mountains, both their surfaces and their interiors, being filled in orderly fashion with trees, plants, and minerals to meet the innumerable needs of all the living creatures on the earth, and even to supply the remedies for their many different illnesses, and gratify their various appetites and tastes, and this being displayed for those who need them, indicates the infinite breadth of your mercy and infinite extent of your sovereignty. While they being prepared perseverantly, knowingly, without confusion, in orderly fashion according to need, despite being all mixed up and concealed in the darkness of the soil layer, indicates your all-embracing knowledge, which encompasses all things, and the comprehensiveness of your wisdom, which sets all things in order. Then, the storing up of medicinal substances, minerals, and metals points clearly to the compassionate, generous, plant processes of your dominicacy and the subtle precautions of your grace. Also, the lofty mountains holding stored up in orderly fashion the reserves to meet the future needs of the travelers in the guest house of this world, and their being stores stocked up with all the treasures necessary for life, indicates, indeed, testifies that the Maker who is thus munificent and hospitable, all-wise and compassionate, powerful and nurturing, surely possesses eternal treasuries for his never-ending bestowal in an everlasting realm for his guests whom he clearly loves. There, the stars will perform the function the mountains perform here. O one powerful over all things! The mountains and the creatures within them are subjugated and stored up in your dominions through your power and strength, your knowledge and wisdom. They sanctify and glorify their Creator, who subjugates and employs them in this way. O merciful Creator, compassionate Sustainer! Through the instruction of your noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, and the teaching of the wise Qur'an, I have understood that just as the heavens, atmosphere, earth, seas, and mountains, together with their creatures and all they contain, recognize you and make you now, so too do all the trees and plants, together with all their leaves and flowers and fruits. All their leaves with their ecstatic movements and recitations, all their flowers, which describe through their decoration the names of their Maker, and all their fruits, which smile with their agreeableness, and the manifestation of your compassion, testify through the order with their wondrous art, which is utterly impossible to ascribe to chance, and the balance within the order, and the adornment within the balance, and the embroideries within the adornment, and the fine and various scents within the embroideries, and the varying tastes of the fruits within the scents, so clearly as to be self-evident to the necessary extent of an infinitely compassionate and munificent Maker. At the same time, their similarity and mutual resemblance throughout the earth, and their bearing the same stamps on their creation, and their being related in their administration and organization, and the coincidence of the creative acts and dominical names connected with them, and the innumerable members of their 100,000 species being raised one within the other without confusion, forms a testimony through them as a whole to the unity and oneness of their necessarily existent Maker. Also, just as they testify to your necessary existence and unity, so too the nurturing and administration in hundreds of ways of the innumerable members of the army of living creatures on the face of the earth, which is formed of 400,000 different nations, perfectly, with no confusion or difficulty, point to the majesty of your dominicality within your unity, and to the immensity of your power, which creates a flower as easily as the spring, and its comprehending all things. They point also to the unlimited breadth of your mercy, which prepares innumerable varieties of foods for animals and men all over the earth, and through all those works and bestowals, administering and nurturing, being carried out with perfect regularity, and everything, even minute particles, being obedient and subjugated to those commands, they indicate certainly the infinite extent of your rule, and through every part of those trees and plants, like their leaves, blossoms, fruits, roots, branches, and twigs, being made with every aspect of them, being known and seen in accordance with useful purposes, instances of wisdom and benefits, they point clearly with innumerable fingers to your knowledge, which embraces all things, and to the comprehensiveness of your wisdom. With innumerable tongues, they praise and extol the utterly perfect beauty of your art and the sheer beauty of your perfect bestowal. Also, these precious gifts and bounties and this extraordinary outlay and bestowal in this temporary hostel and transitory guest house for this brief time and fleeting life indicate through the hands of the trees and plants, indeed testify that in order not to make all creatures say, contrary to the necessary result of all his expense and bestowal, which is to make himself loved and known, you gave us a test, but then executed us without permitting us to eat, and not to nullify the sovereignty of his Godhead, and not deny his infinite mercy and make it denied, and in order not to turn all his yearning friends into enemies, through depriving them thus, the beneficent all-compassionate one has of a certainty prepared for his servants, whom he will send to an everlasting realm, an eternal world, fruit-bearing trees, and flowering plants appropriate to paradise out of the treasuries of his mercy in his eternal paradises. Thus, here are merely samples to show the customers. Also, just as through the words of their leaves, flowers, and fruits, the trees and plants praise, sanctify, and glorify you, so each one of those words singly declare you to be holy. The glorifications of fruits, in particular through the tone of disposition, with the great variety of their original flesh, their wondrous art, and extraordinary seeds, and those trays of food being given to hands of the trees, and placed on them, and sent to your living guests. Their glorifications are so evident they are almost verbal. All are subjugated and submissive to your command in your dominions through your power and strength and your wisdom and bestowal. O wise Maker and compassionate Creator, hidden in the intensity of His manifestation and concealed within the magnificence of His grandeur. Through the tongues of all trees and plants and their leaves, flowers and fruits, and to their number, I praise and extol you and declare you free of all defect, impotence, and partners. O all-powerful Creator, all-wise Planner, compassionate Nurturer, through the instruction of your most noble Messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, and the teaching of the wise Qur'an, I have understood and believed that just as plants and trees recognize you and make known your sacred attributes and beautiful names, so too, among man and the animals, which are those living creatures which have spirits, there is not one that through its internal and external members, which works as regularly as clockwork, and the extremely fine order and balance of their bodies, and the significant benefits and purposes of their senses and faculties, and the great art in their making, and their being decked out with much wisdom, and the precise equilibrium of their physical systems, but it testifies to your necessary existence and the reality of your attributes. For blind force, unconscious nature, and aimless chance could in no way interfere in such percipient, delicate art, and conscious subtle wisdom, and perfect providential balance. They could not be their work. It is impossible. It is also utterly impossible that living creatures made themselves, for then each of their particles would have to possess comprehensive knowledge and wisdom like a god, to be able to know, see, and make all the parts of their bodies and form it. Indeed, it would have to be able to know, see, and make everything in the world connected with it. Then the body's formation could be referred to it, and it could be said that it makes itself. Also, their being subject to the same administration and the same planning, and their all being the same kind, and their bearing the same stamp, such as the resemblance in features like the eye, ear, and mouth, and the unity in the stamp of wisdom observed on the faces of members of the same species, and the resemblance in livelihood and creation, and their all being one within the other, there is not one of these circumstances, but it testifies categorically to your unity, and by the manifestations of all your names, which look to the universe being on each individual, to your oneness within unity. Also, through being equipped, trained, and subservient like a regular army, and from the smallest to the largest, they are conforming in orderly fashion to the commands of dominicality, man, and the 100,000 animal species on the face of the earth point to the degree of splendor of that dominicality, and through their great value, despite their great multitude, and their perfection despite the speed of their making, and their great art despite the ease of their making, to the degree of grandeur of your power. Also, they point decisively to the boundless expanse of your mercy, which sends their sustenance to all of them, from the microbe to the rhinoceros, and the tiniest fly to the largest bird, dispersed from east to west, and north to south, and through all of them performing their natural functions like soldiers under command, and ever spring the face of the earth, being the encampment of an army newly taken under arms in place of those discharged the previous autumn, to the infinite extent of your sovereignty. Also, through a profound knowledge and precise wisdom, all living creatures being miniature copies of the universe, and they being made faultlessly, with none of their parts being confused, or any of their different forms mixed up, they point to their number to your knowledge, which embraces all things, and your wisdom, which comprehends all things, while, by their all being made so beautiful and fine as to be miracles of art and wonders of wisdom, they indicate in innumerable ways the utterly perfect beauty of your dominical art, which you greatly love and want to exhibit, and through all of them, and particularly their young, being nourished in the finest way, with their wishes and desires being satisfied to the sweet beauty of your grace. O most merciful and compassionate, O one most true to his promise, owner of the day of judgment, through the instruction of your noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, and the guidance of the all-wise Qur'an, I have understood that, since the choicest result of the universe is life, and the choicest essence of life is spirit, and the choicest of beings with spirits are intelligent beings, and of intelligent beings the one with the most comprehensive nature is man, and since all the universe is subjugated to life and works for life, and living beings are subjugated to beings with spirits, and they are sent to this world for them, and beings with spirits are subjugated to man, and they assist him, and since by nature men earnestly love their Creator, and their Creator both loves them, and by every means makes them love him, and since man's innate capacity and spiritual faculties look to another permanent world and everlasting life, and his heart and intelligence desire eternity with all their strength, and his tongue beseeches his Creator for eternity with endless prayers, he surely would not affront men who love him greatly and are loved by causing them to die than not raising them again to life, and while he created them for an eternal love to make them feel eternal hostility, to do that would not be possible. Men were sent to work in this world in order to live happily in another eternal world and to win that life. The names manifested on man in this brief and fleeting life indicate that man, who will be their mirrors in the eternal realm, will receive their eternal manifestations. Yes, the true friend of the Eternal One should be eternal, and the conscious mirror of the Enduring One should be enduring. It is understood from sound narrations that the spirits of animals will live eternally, and that certain individual animals, like the Hudhud of Solomon, upon whom be peace, and his ants, Salis, upon whom be peace, she-camel, and the dog of the companions of the cave, will go to the eternal realm with both their spirits and their bodies, and that each species will have a single body that may be utilized from time to time. This is also demanded by wisdom and reality and mercy and dominicality. O all-powerful self-subsistent One, all living creatures, beings with spirits, and conscious beings are subjugated to the commands of your dominicality and employed in their innate duties only through your power and strength, your will and planning, and your mercy and wisdom. Some have been subjugated to man not because of man's power and dominance, but by divine mercy because of his innate weakness and impotence. Through the tongues of both disposition and speech they absolve their Maker, and through object of worship of all defect and partner, and offering thanks and praise for his bounties, perform the worship particular to them. O most pure and holy One, hidden in the intensity of his manifestation and concealed within the magnificence of his grandeur. Forming the intention, I sanctify you with the glorifications of all beings with spirits and declare, Glory be to you who has made from water all living things. O sustainer of all the worlds, O God of the first comers and the last comers, O sustainer of the heavens and the earth, through the instruction of your noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, and the teaching of the all-wise Qur'an, I have understood and believe that just as the heavens, atmosphere, earth, land, and sea, trees, plants, and animals, together with all their members, parts, and particles, know and recognize you, and point to and testify to your excellence and unity, so too, living beings, the essence of the universe, and man, the essence of living creatures, and the prophets, saints, and prophets scholars, the essence of man, and through their visions, unfoldings, inspirations, and the discoveries of their hearts and intellects, which form the essence of the prophets, saints, and prophet scholars, testify with the certainty of 100-fold consensus to your necessary existence, unity, and oneness, and give news of them, and through their miracles, wonder-working, and certain proofs prove what they tell of. Yes, there is nothing that occurs to the heart which looks to one who inspires it from behind the veil of the unseen, and there is no inspiration which makes one look to the giver of inspiration, and there is no certain belief which discloses in the form of absolute certainty your sacred attributes and most beautiful names, and there is no luminous heart of the prophets and saints which observes with the vision of certainty the lights of the necessary existence, and there is no enlightened intellect of the purified scholars and veracious ones which confirms and proves with the knowledge of certainty the signs of the existence of the Creator of all things and the proofs of His unity. There is not one of these that does not testify to your necessary existence and sacred attributes and your unity, oneness, and most beautiful names, and point to them and indicate them. Also, just as relying on their miracles, wonder-working, and proofs, all those hundreds of thousands of truthful bringers of good news testify to your existence and unity, so they unanimously give news of, proclaim, and prove the degree of majesty of your dominicality, which governs from the administration of the totality of matters of the sublime throne, which encompasses all things, to knowing and hearing and administering the secret, private thoughts of the heart and its desires and supplications. They tell of and prove too the immensity of your power, which creates innumerable different things at once and makes the greatest thing as easily as the smallest, with no act impeding another and no matter obstructing another. Also, they give news of and prove through their miracles and proves the immense breadth of your mercy, which makes the universe a magnificent palace for beings with spirits, and especially man has prepared paradise and everlasting happiness for jinn, and man does not forget even the tiniest living being and tries to satisfy and please the most impotent heart. They give news too of the infinite extent of your sovereignty, which makes complete with your commands all the realms of creatures, from particles to the planets, and subjugates and employs them. So, also, they unanimously testify to your comprehensive knowledge, which makes the universe into a vast book containing treatises to the numbers of its parts, and records the life stories of all beings in the clear record and clear book, which are the notebooks of the preserved tablet, and inscribes completely and without error in their seats the indexes and programs of all trees, and the biographies of conscious beings in the memories in their heads. They testify too to the comprehensiveness of your sacred wisdom, which attaches numerous purposes to all beings, causing even trees to produce results to the number of their fruits, and follows benefits in all living beings to the number of their members, and even their parts and cells, and employing man's tongue in numerous duties, equips it with the ability to weigh up tests to the number of foods. They also unanimously testify that the manifestations of the names related to your beauty and glory, samples of which are to be seen in this world, will continue in more brilliant fashion for all eternity, and that your bounties, samples of which are to be observed in this transitory world, will persist in the abode of bliss in even more glittering fashion, and that those who long for them in this world will accompany them and be together with them for all eternity. Also, relying on hundreds of evident miracles and decisive signs, foremost, your most noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, and the all-wise Qur'an, and the prophets with their luminous spirits, and the saints, who are spiritual poles with their light-filled hearts, and the prophet scholars with their enlightened intellects, relying on your repeated threats and promises in all the sacred scriptures, and trusting in your sacred attributes, like power, mercy, favor, wisdom, glory, and beauty, and on your functions, and the dignity of your glory, and the sovereignty of your dominicality, and in consequence of their illuminations, and visions, and beliefs, at the degree of the knowledge of certainty, give the glad tidings to man and jinn of eternal happiness, and inform them of hell for the people of misguidance. They believe this and testify to it. O all-powerful and wise one, O most merciful and compassionate, O munificent one true to his promise, O all-compelling one of glory, one of dignity, grandeur, and wrath. You are utterly exempt from and exalted above giving the lie to so many loyal friends and so many promises and attributes and functions, and denying the certain demands of the sovereignty of your dominicality and the endless prayers and supplications of your innumerable acceptable servants, whom you love and who attract your love by assenting to you and obeying you, and you are exempt from confirming the denial of resurrection of the people of misguidance and unbelief, who through their disbelief and rebellion and denial of your promises affront the magnificence of your grandeur and affront your dignity and glory and the honor of your Godhead, and sadden the compassion of your dominicality. I declare your justice, beauty, and mercy to be exempt from such infinite tyranny, such ugliness. With all the particles of my being, I want to recite the verse. Glory be to him, he is high above all that they say, exalted and great beyond measure. Indeed, those fearful envoys of yours and heralds of your sovereignty testify with absolute certainty, knowledge of certainty, and the vision of certainty to the treasuries of your mercy in the hereafter and the stores of your bounties in the everlasting realm, and to the wondrously beautiful manifestations of your beautiful names, which will be manifested totally in the abode of bliss, and they give good news of this. Believing that the supreme ray of your name of truth, which is the source, son, and protector of all realities, is this truth of the resurrection and great gathering, they teach it to your servants. O sustainer of the prophets and veracious one, they are all subservient to you and charged with their duties in your dominions through your commands and power, your will and planning, your knowledge and wisdom. They demonstrate through sanctifying, exalting, and extolling you and declaring you to be one, that the globe is a vast place for your remembrance and the universe a huge mosque. O my sustainer and sustainer of the heavens and earth, O my creator and creator of all things, for the sake of your power, will, wisdom, sovereignty, and mercy, which subjugate the heavens and their stars, the earth and all it contains, and all creatures together with all their attributes and acts, subject my soul to me and subjugate to me my wishes. Subjugate the hearts of people to the Risale-i Nur, so they may serve the Qur'an and believe, and grant me and my brothers perfect belief and a happy death. As you subjugated the sea to Moses, peace be upon him, fire to Abraham, peace be upon him, the mountains and iron to David, peace be upon him, jinn and man to Solomon, peace be upon him, and the sun and moon to Muhammad, upon whom be blessings and peace, subjugate hearts and minds to the Risale-i Nur. Preserve me and all the students of the Risale-i Nur from the evil of the soul and Satan and the torment of the grave and hellfire, and grant us happiness in paradise. Amin, Amin, Amin. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. And the close of their prayer will be, all praise be to God, the sustainer of all the worlds. If I have been at fault in offering to the court of my compassionate sustainer this instructive piece, which I have taken from the Qur'an and the Jawshan al-Kabir, a supplication of the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, as worship in the form of reflective thought, making the Qur'an and the Jawshan my intercessors, I beseech forgiveness for my fault. Said Nursi.